Hello, freaks, geeks, nerds, and basement dwellers. Welcome to the Nerd Zone. I'm Scruffy, and this is Scruffy Tales. And I'm essentially gonna offer you a piece of fan fiction, basically. My version of how I would have introduced the Gorn in a new show for Star Trek. Not the biggest fan of the Gorn we currently have, or how they have been introduced and stuff like that. So I figured, hell, why not make my own humble addition to what the Gorn might have been in a Star Trek show. So let's take a look at it. My version, and I named the episode Hell Hath No Fury. So we start off with the Enterprise being ordered to visit a planet outside of Federation space that has been attacked by the Gorn. Federation citizens might have been killed since trade is well established with this planet, with this colony. And the Federation and Starfleet are concerned that Federation citizens have been caught in the crossfire when the Gorn attacked. It is unclear why the Gorn have attacked, so an investigation is needed, and the Enterprise is deployed to investigate and find out what the hell is going on in neutral space between the Federation and the Gorn hegemony. En route to the planet, the crew discuss the Gorn, and it's a bit of exposition, absolutely, but we learn that there has not really been any hostilities with the Gorn for 1 or 2 decades. The Gorn is a matriarchy where the females control everything, basically. They are territorial, but not empire building. They defend their territory and they defend the resources, what's theirs, but they are not aggressively pushing into the galaxy. And the Federation has had most success dealing with the Gorn when they have relied on female ambassadors. The Enterprise arrives at the planet. They make contact with the colony. The colony was attacked. Lots of dead. Some Federation citizens have died, and the survivors reveal that it was indeed the Gorn who attacked, and apparently for no reason. There seems to be a disconnect to why this happened. The Gorn just showed up. They were in contact with the colonial government, and then they attacked. Upon some further investigation, the crew of the Enterprise, they find the remains of a female Gorn, skinned. We see the skin of a female Gorn hanging stretched out between poles, and this was done by the Gorn themselves, according to eyewitnesses and the survivors. They found this female Gorn and dragged her out of hiding and proceeded to torture her and skin her. So clearly the Gorn arrived and apparently were chasing other Gorn, which is a bit strange, and now we kind of get into the mystery of the whole thing here. At this point, a Gorn ship arrives, bird of prey style, but with a Gorn twist, and they make contact with the Enterprise and wants to talk with Pike, and the crew is all female Gorn, no males around at all. And we learn that the commander is from internal security and has been authorized by the hegemony to hunt down criminals and terrorists trying to leave Gorn space. And the Gorn are looking for terrorists that have fled the hegemony. And they admit that they dealt with one traitor and skinned her for her crimes. And the reason why they attacked the colony is because the colony gave these terrorists asylum, and they weren't handing them over. and Pike tries to, inform the Gorn that, the terrorists the terrorists had asylum. You can't just attack willy-nilly. It doesn't matter. The Gorn are within their rights to attack in the hunt of these traitors and terrorists, because the terrorists have abducted Gorn younglings, and these younglings must be found and returned to the hegemony. Now, talks breaks down. The Gorn aren't interested in listening to Pike, and it's a bit of a stalemate. So the crew of the Enterprise, they need to figure out what is going on. If the Gorn are looking for the Gorn, they're more than likely hiding in a warm place, because Gorn are cold-blooded. And Spock eventually figures out where that place might be on the colony. So they need to distract the Gorn in the ship while they go back down to the surface to find these Gorn in hiding. And the crew of the Enterprise, they find the Gorn that are hiding. 4 male Gorn and 1 female are hiding. The males are smaller, not as beefy, not as buff as the females. And there are also 2 humans helping them. And one of the humans appears a bit sick, but feels no pain. But you can tell by the eyes and stuff like that something is wrong with this person. But he or she feels no pain and seems to be operating somewhat okay. And like we said, the Gorn male are not at all as beefy and strong as the females. Now, so we learn from the female Gorn and the males here that they have fled the tyranny of the hegemony, and they are seeking asylum, and the goal is to reach the Federation to be able to get away from the oppression of the Gorn hegemony. And the Enterprise, they intend to offer it. They are obliged by Starfleet regulations and Federation law to do so, and they intend to offer asylum until the matter is investigated properly. They need to figure out if these people are well and truly oppressed by the Gorn government, and they also need to figure out how to deal with the Gorn, since a couple of Federation citizens have been killed and injured during the attack. At this point, several Gorn beam in armed with phasers, and they attack. So we have a brief shootout. Everyone of the Enterprise crew, along with the asylum seekers, are beamed up to the Enterprise, and the fight continues in space between the starships. And it's a big fight, and the Gorn ship is powerful. It's not on par with a Romulan war ship. It doesn't have that big plasma gun, but it is powerful nonetheless, and dangerous for the Enterprise. Now, during the initial skirmish on the planet between the Gorn and the Enterprise, the last female Gorn that was accompanying the males was wounded and is being treated in sickbay and is close to dying. And just before dying, she grabs hold of a crew member and sprays a black liquid onto his face before she eventually dies. And the medical crewman gets immediate attention, and everyone wonders what the hell happened. And now we have another dead female Gorn. Pike convinces his executive, number 1, to try and make contact with the Gorn, and they respond to a female reaching out to them, and the fighting calms down, and they agree to meet with Pike thanks to number 1, and number 1 obviously is in on that meeting as well. And talking with the Gorn, they learn that the males intend to start their own colony with the stolen Gorn younglings. They've stolen children. And now the crew of the Enterprise learn that the males have used the females that were in their company to infect a host with younglings to make this happen. And they're trying to break with the hegemony, which is treason. And also, according to Gorn law, infecting a sentient host is murder. And also, there's the part within the hegemony that all younglings belong to the hegemony. You can't just take a child and leave. All younglings belong to the state, essentially. And if these males are allowed to escape, they will breed by any means necessary, is the fear of the hegemony, including infecting more sentient beings in order to create their new colony. And this would break the hegemony, and then, since Gorn are so territorial, they fear that this will eventually down the line spark into a great war, great conflict, and that is what they must avoid at all costs and must maintain the hegemony so that Gorn don't kill other Gorn in a great war. So the crew of the Enterprise, they discuss how to deal with this, how to solve this. And Spock has done some research so he can explain to Pike and others how Gorn reproduce, with the females spraying this black goo into the face of a host animal, and then tiny larvae crawl into the animals, into the stomach, where they then begin to grow into small Gorn that can then burst free, claw their way out, and then feed on the host and begin to hunt. And the Gorn have nursery planets filled with livestock, essentially, where female Gorn can go and hunt down hosts and infect them, and then they simply wait for the younglings to emerge and become old enough before they get picked up and introduced to Gorn society. And now they, of course, understand the dangers of, with their one crew member more than likely being infected by Gorn younglings. And it is naturally around this point that the sick human that was helping the Gorn is killed, as the Gorn younglings are born clawing their way out of her from within. And it should also be noted that the larvae, they secrete opioids that makes you numb to the pain, and that is why you can handle having these creatures growing inside of you, despite the fact that you look very sick as it happens. And this human is torn apart by several Gorn as they are born out of her. So we get a violent brawl starting as Starfleet tries to stop the younglings from escaping, and the male Gorn now step in and fight the Starfleet officers, and it just evolves into a big brawl. And during the fight, one of the male Gorn bites onto a Starfleet officer's arm and does a classic crocodile death roll, and maybe not rips their arm off, but definitely just maims it severely. And due to this fight, the younglings manage to escape, and they are now loose on the Enterprise. The crew of the Enterprise are forced to kill the male Gorn. They do not surrender. They're doing their damnedest to protect the younglings, so the crew of the Enterprise have to gun them down. But the Enterprise still needs help to find the younglings who are running around rampant on the ship. One crew member has already been injured by them, so Kirk talks to the Gorn and asks them to help them find the younglings and put a stop to their mayhem on the ship. They have also already found 2 of the younglings killed by other younglings, and they learn from the Gorn captain that this is normal. Younglings are competitive, they are aggressive, and it ensures the survival of the fittest. But the female captain agrees to help the Enterprise collect the remaining 4 Gorn younglings. And the Gorn captain visits the Enterprise and uses motherly noises to get the younglings to emerge from hiding, and they walk up to the captain and they can be collected, responding to the motherly noises made by the Gorn. And now the younglings have been found and they have been retrieved and returned to the Gorn ship. And the Enterprise crew asks the Gorn for help with their infected crew member who got sprayed in the face. But the Gorn refuse. The younglings must be allowed to hatch. That is their custom, that is their laws, that is how their culture and society works. Anything else is murder. If you do not allow the younglings to grow and be born, that is murder. Even when they're only small larvae crawling into a host and trying to establish themselves within the host. The Gorn do offer to bring the crew member with them to offer care and take care of the host until the hatchlings emerge. Unfortunately, this means that the host will in the end die. And this is of course unacceptable for Pike and the rest of the crew, and this means we have yet another fight between the ships. And the reason is of course the Gorn refuses to let go of the younglings, of the children. They know that the host has larvae within him. They will grow into younglings that eventually will emerge. They, according to Gorn custom, they must control the younglings and they must be allowed to be born. And this creates the hostility that leads to a big showdown in space once again. And as the ships fight, the crew of the Enterprise, they try to extract the Gorn younglings, or the larvae rather, and they try various methods back and forth, and they eventually succeed and find a way how to rid the patient of these Gorn larvae, and making sure that none are still in him and there can be no younglings emerging. They essentially kill all the larvae by doing this. And Pike informs the Gorn with the aid of number 1 that they have successfully removed all larvae from the host, meaning there can be no younglings born. This effectively ends the fight. The Gorn have nothing left to fight for at this point. That said, the captain of the Gorn informs the Enterprise crew that they are responsible for murdering Gorn children, and specifically the medical crew that were involved in the operation. They are considered by Gorn society to be murderers. They have killed younglings, and the Gorn will seek to have the medical crew delivered to the Gorn hegemony to face trial for murder. And the Gorn will be in contact with the Federation to ensure that these murderers are handed over to the Gorn. And the ships part ways, and that is essentially the end of the episode. And that would be my episode, how to introduce the Gorn, making them a more functional society instead of just these feral xenomorph magog hybrid things running around the galaxy, being xenomorphs armed with guns and starships essentially. I just find it's really weird, this combination that they went for in Strange New Worlds. So why not make them a more credible society? You can keep the Magog thing, how to reproduce and stuff like that. That's fine. Add the xenomorph inspiration when they burst out of hosts, but why chase sentient beings? It makes no sense. These are evolved creatures. They have a society, sciences. They can build starships. We went from hunting to having cattle to farming, the land, and it was so. The Gorn should do something similar. Why attack sentient beings when all you need to do is use large domesticated animals to reproduce, right? So ignore all, that they are that the hegemony is going after sentience. That's the renegades that do that in this case. We introduce the males, making them a bit different from the females. It's a matriarchy, stuff like that. And I think it makes it easier to create stories involving the Gorn if you don't make them like feral xenomorphs in spacesuits. And you make it a society with cultural differences from the Federation, and that those differences cause tension, and that allows you to build fun stories that allows you to have proper interaction between the Enterprise crew and the Gorn. So that is how I would introduce them, and I called the episode Hell Hath No Fury because they are essentially dealing with a bunch of very, very upset women and moms in this case. Anyway, that's it. I hope you found it interesting, and if you have opinions, leave a comment or two. Bye.